What happens when the man who built the burger empire with his own two hands puts on a headset and finds out his house is rotting from the inside? Parker Linton hadn't flipped a burger in 12 years. He'd bought the 16-location fast food chain from a family friend back when it only had 4 locations. He expanded it: fast, good food, fast lines, clean stores. That was the promise. But lately, the promise was starting to crack. Customer complaints were rising. Online reviews mentioned rude service, long wait times, cold food. Parker hated relying on district reports. Numbers didn't show how people were treated. He needed eyes on the ground. He picked store number 7. A drive-through heavy location in a busy suburb. Not the worst performer, but not the best. It was staffed mostly by teenagers and part-timers. Perfect cover. He grew out his beard, dyed it gray, and wore thick glasses. His usually sharp haircut was swapped for a messy, overgrown mop. His wardrobe? Baggy khakis, a faded polo, and a name tag that read Ray Trainee. Only the general manager and district manager had ever seen him in person, and he hadn't set foot in this store since it opened 6 years ago. No one would recognize him. He walked in on a Wednesday morning. The lobby smelled like fryer oil and old ketchup. A tense-looking woman in her 40s, name tag reading, Manager Carla, handed him a headset and pointed to the drive-thru line. "Stay quiet, watch how we do it," she said without looking at him. By noon, Parker was taking orders solo. The line was never-ending. He stayed calm, kept his voice friendly. But what really caught his attention wasn't the customers, it was how the crew talked to each other. "Get your head out of your phone, Liv." Carla snapped at a teen girl quietly restocking sauces. "You want to be off the schedule again?" The girl, Olivia, maybe 17, jumped. "I wasn't on my phone, I swear. I was just, don't backtalk me. You're lucky you even got this shift." Parker watched Olivia bite her lip and turn away. She looked pale. He didn't say anything. Not yet. By the 3rd day, he'd learned a lot. The kitchen was understaffed because Carla regularly cut hours to meet labor targets. They were always short 1 or 2 people. Some workers got their hours chopped with no warning. A few walked out mid-shift and never came back. But it was Friday afternoon when everything changed. Parker was working drive-thru again. The sun was blazing outside. He wore the headset, called out orders, and tried to stay invisible. Then he heard it. "Please, Carla. I need this job. I'm not trying to mess up, I swear." He turned. Olivia stood at the back of the kitchen, her voice shaking. Carla stood in front of her, arms crossed. "You were 5 minutes late," Carla said flatly. "Again. That's it. You're off schedule next week." "I had to drop my little brother off. I didn't want to be late. I tried to call, but no one answered." "Not my problem. You think this place runs on sympathy. I can't afford to miss a week. My mom got laid off. We're behind on rent." Carla shrugged. "Then maybe try being on time." Parker's hand froze on the headset. The next customer's voice buzzed in his ear, but he didn't hear it. He pulled off the headset slowly and walked straight toward the back. Carla looked at him. "You're not supposed to be. I need to talk to you." "Now," he said, his voice low. Carla narrowed her eyes. "Who do you think you are?" He didn't answer. He turned to Olivia. "Go grab a water. Take 10 minutes." She blinked, confused. Carla opened her mouth to protest, but Parker held up a hand. "In the office. Let's go." Carla huffed but followed him. Inside the cramped room, Parker shut the door behind them. "You're about to understand exactly who I am," he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out his real ID. Carla's face drained of color. "Your name's not Ray," she said, voice cracking. "No. It's Parker Linton. I own this place. All 16 of them." She stared. "This is a joke." "This isn't a joke," he said. "You just threatened to take a job from a teenager who's doing her best to survive. That's not leadership." Carla folded her arms, defensive. She's always late. I have to keep labor down, or the store's numbers tank. I'm doing what I was told. You were told to run a team, not break people. You cut hours until this place is falling apart. You treat your staff like they're disposable. She's not reliable. None of these kids are.
No.
You're not reliable, Parker said. And after what I saw this week, you're done. Clean out your stuff. You're not coming back. Carla's mouth hung open. You can't I just did. Parker stepped out of the office with Carla's badge in his hand. She followed behind him, silent now, her eyes darting between the crew members, avoiding her gaze. No one spoke. The kitchen noise never stopped, fryers humming, timers beeping, but the energy had shifted. He turned to the assistant manager, a wiry man in his late 20s standing near the prep table. His name tag read Jordan. Parker had watched him all week, soft-spoken, efficient, but always a little on edge. You're next in line, Parker said. Step in. You're running the shift now. Jordan's eyes widened. I'm sorry, what? You know how this place runs. Keep it steady. I need a word with Olivia. Jordan nodded once, clearly stunned, but didn't argue. Parker walked to the front counter. Olivia stood near the soda machine, holding a cup with both hands like she wasn't sure she was allowed to drink from it. Her cheeks were blotchy, and her eyes flicked toward him, then away. You all right? He asked gently. She nodded, but her voice was small. I didn't know who you were. You weren't supposed to. Can we talk out back? She hesitated, then followed him through the rear exit to the loading dock. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the concrete. The dumpsters buzzed nearby, but the air was cooler than inside. You didn't do anything wrong, Parker said. Olivia shrugged. I should have been on time. No, he said evenly. You shouldn't have to beg to be treated like a person. She looked down. It's just been a lot lately. My mom works nights at the hospital. I get my brother to school, then come here. I don't really have anyone else. He leaned against the brick wall, arms crossed. How long you been here? 5 months. I started during winter break. I was supposed to quit after school started again, but I couldn't. You ever get trained properly? Not really. Carla just threw me on counter. I watched Jordan to figure stuff out. Parker nodded slowly. You ever get a raise?
No.
Asked once. She told me I didn't show enough initiative.
He sighed.
You're getting one starting next pay cycle. You're also getting your hours back. She blinked. For real? Yeah. And if you ever have trouble outside of here, family stuff, school stuff, you come to me or the district office. We don't punish people for surviving. She bit her lip, like she wasn't sure if she should smile. Okay. He watched her head back inside, then pulled out his phone. He called the regional HR rep. Need you here tomorrow. Early. We're doing a full audit on this store, training records, scheduling logs, labor cuts. Everything. Then he called the district manager. Why didn't I hear a word about this crew being understaffed? There was a pause on the other end before the voice answered. Carla kept it quiet. She knew how to make her numbers look right. I didn't think you didn't check. I'll be there first thing. You should have been here last week. He hung up. By the time he stepped back inside, the dinner rush was starting. The line of cars wrapped around the building. Jordan was already on a headset, moving quickly but calmly. Parker approached the line cook, a stocky guy in his early 20s named Marcus. He'd noticed him before, kept his head down, worked fast, barely talked. Marcus, Parker said. You good to hold this line for another hour? Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead with the sleeve of his shirt. I can, but the grill's running hot. We're down one spatula, and the vent fan's still busted. Been like that for weeks. Parker frowned. Reported it? 3 times. Carla said it wasn't in the budget. He walked to the back office again, pulled open the maintenance log. There it was, 3 requests, all marked closed by Carla. No repair orders filed. He stepped back into the kitchen. You're getting that new fan. Tomorrow. I'll have the vendor here before noon. Anything else broken? Marcus nodded toward the bun toaster. That thing sticks. Burns the edges if you don't babysit it. Logged. I gave up. Parker looked at Jordan. Pull every maintenance request logged the last 6 months. I want them on my desk by tonight. Jordan nodded. Will do. Parker turned back to Marcus. You're getting a new spatula set. And hazard pay for the last 3 weeks. Marcus blinked. You serious? I don't play around with safety. Or lies. He stepped away just as a sharp crash rang from the front counter. A tray had hit the floor. A customer, a man in his 50s wearing a suit jacket, stood at the register, red-faced. I've been waiting 20 minutes for a double combo and it's cold, the man barked. What kind of joke is this place? Parker moved in before anyone else could respond. Sir, I'm the owner. Come with me. The man's eyebrows lifted. You?
Yes.
Let's make this right. He walked the man to a side table, apologized calmly, offered a refund and a new meal. It wasn't about the money. It was about presence, accountability. As the man sat down, surprised but satisfied, Parker turned to the young cashier, a nervous boy with braces. You okay? The kid nodded quickly. I didn't know what to say. Carly used to tell us to just ignore them. You don't ignore anyone. You own the problem, fix it if you can, and always stay calm. That's your job. Not to take abuse, but to lead with respect. The kid nodded again, more slowly this time. The night wore on. Parker didn't leave. He stayed through closing, mopping, scrubbing, restocking. He watched how the crew tightened up when they worked together without Carla hovering. He saw Jordan step up, coaching, not barking. He saw Olivia laughing quietly with Marcus over a dropped pickle bucket. He saw what the store could be. At 1 a.m, the lights shut off. Parker stood outside under the flickering sign, arms folded. Jordan joined him. Didn't expect to be manager when I woke up. You earned it. Jordan hesitated. I knew things weren't right. I just didn't think I could do anything. You can now. Keep it honest. Train your people. And don't let anyone push them out for being human. Jordan nodded. Yes, sir. Parker gave him a small nod and climbed into his truck. As he drove off, he didn't look in the rearview mirror. He didn't need to. The cameras would come down tomorrow. The disguise would be gone. But he'd be back. Not as a stranger. Not again. By Monday morning, Parker was back in his office, downtown, no disguise, no headset, no fryer grease on his sleeves. 3 days had passed since he'd removed Carla and promoted Jordan to interim manager. The drive-thru store was still short-staffed, but it was holding steady. He hadn't turned it around overnight, and he knew better than to think he could, but the bleeding had slowed. He stared at the schedule report on his screen. Olivia was listed for 5 shifts this week, all after school, all within legal working hours for minors. Jordan had already made adjustments, rebalanced the prep schedule, and added 1 new hire to the mix. Parker wanted 5 more names by the end of the week. He picked up the phone and dialed the regional HR manager. I want a third-party trainer at Store 7 by Thursday, he said. Someone outside the district. We're rebuilding that team from the ground up, and I don't want bad habits passed down. Understood, the HR manager said. You want them observing or leading? Leading. I want them shadowing every shift lead too. If they see anything off, cut corners, bad tone, rushed onboarding, I want it flagged. He ended the call, then leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from his executive assistant. Store 3 GM wants to meet. Says it's urgent. Something about hiring practices. Parker typed back 1 word. Today. By noon, he was back in his truck, pulling into the parking lot of Store 3, one of the company's oldest locations. He hadn't visited this one in years. The exterior still had the original signage, a little faded, and the parking lot lines were nearly invisible under layers of wear. Inside, the smell was sharper than he expected, like burnt oil and heavy bleach. The floors were clean, but the corners of the dining area had dust in the baseboards. It wasn't dirty, exactly, just tired. Like the place had been doing its best to stay functional on too little. The GM, a man in his early 40s named Hector, waved him into the office. Hector had been with the company since before Parker bought it, one of the few holdovers from the original ownership. "I've got a problem," Hector said, closing the door. "Been trying to fix it quietly, but I'm done waiting." "What kind of problem?" "Front counter's been turning over faster than we can hire. Not because of pay, not because of hours. It's because of Miguel." Parker frowned. "Shift lead Miguel?" "That's the one. I've had 3 employees quit after working under him for less than a week. I didn't think much of it at first. Thought maybe they weren't cut out for the job. But I started watching the tapes. He's not just hard. He's discriminatory." Parker's voice sharpened. "Be specific." "He treats our Latino hires like they're beneath him. Speaks English to everyone else, but when he talks to them, he slows his words down like they're stupid, even though some of them speak better English than I do. One girl came to me crying because he told her she should stick to cleaning if she couldn't take the pressure." Parker's jaw tightened. "When did this start?" "I didn't catch it until last month, but I went back through the logs. It's been going on for at least 3.
No one wanted to speak up.
He's slick about it, never says anything when customers are around." "Where is he now?" "On register 2. Lunch rush." Parker stood. "Pull him off."
"Now."
Hector didn't hesitate. He stepped out and returned 60 seconds later with Miguel in tow. Miguel walked in with a half smile, wiping his hands on his apron, clearly unaware of what waited for him. "Boss man," he said casually. "Hector said you wanted to talk?" "Sit down," Parker said. Miguel sat slowly, the smile fading. Parker didn't waste a second. "I've reviewed multiple complaints from staff about how you treat your coworkers, specifically Spanish-speaking employees. I've seen footage. I've heard audio. You've created an environment of intimidation, condescension, and exclusion. That's not leadership. That's discrimination."
Miguel blinked.
"I was just trying to push them. Keep the line tight. You told a 16-year-old she should go back to cleaning because she was asking questions. You mocked someone's accent in front of another employee. You think that's pushing?" Miguel shifted in his chair. "It was a joke. We mess around." "They never said they did. And even if they didn't, it doesn't matter. You don't get to decide what's offensive. They do." Hector stood in the doorway, arms crossed but silent. "You're gone," Parker said. "Effective immediately. Turn in your badge. You are not welcome in any store I own." Miguel stood, his face flushed. "You serious?" "I've never been more." Miguel looked to Hector for support. He got none. He left without another word. Parker exhaled slowly and turned to Hector. "I want anonymous reporting posted in every break room by Friday. Not just a hotline. I want QR codes, physical forms, everything. No one should have to wait 3 months to be heard." Hector nodded. "Understood." Parker stepped back into the dining area. A young woman at the counter glanced up, recognized him, and quickly looked away. He approached her. "You new here?" he asked. She nodded. "Started last week."
"Good."
"What's your name?"
"Rosa."
"You like it so far?" She hesitated, then gave a small nod. "It's better now." He didn't press. "If anyone gives you problems, you come to Hector. If that doesn't work, you come to me." Her eyes widened slightly. "Okay." He left the store and sat in his truck for a moment before pulling out his phone again. He opened a company-wide scheduling platform and filtered all stores by number of applicants rejected in the past 60 days. Store 12 stood out. Highest rejection rate by far. He tapped the stats. Nearly every rejected applicant fit a pattern female, over 30, mostly applying for evening shifts. He called the recruitment manager. I need a list of everyone who's handled interviews at store 12 in the last 2 months. There was a pause. Mostly assistant manager Darlene. She's been screening before forwarding to the GM. Has anyone reviewed her criteria? Not recently. She's been there a while.
No que en plans.
There's about to be. He drove straight to store 12. It was newer, bigger, one of the flagship suburban locations with high-tech kiosks and a modern layout. But when he walked inside, the energy fell off. The team behind the counter, all under 25, all visibly tense, barely looked up. He asked for Darlene. She emerged from the back in a crisp uniform, holding an iPad. She was in her early 30s, sharp features, fast posture. Can I help you? Let's talk in your office. She led the way. Once the door closed, Parker turned. You've been rejecting applicants over 30. Why? She blinked. I haven't. I've seen the data. The only resumes you forward are from teenagers or college students. You've rejected 24 applicants who had prior food service experience, most of them women, many of them mothers looking for night shifts. She folded her arms. This is a high-volume store. We need fast hands. Younger hires adapt better. That's not a hiring policy. That's age discrimination. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. You're done, Parker said. This isn't a judgment call. It's a violation of federal law. Get your things. She didn't argue. She didn't have a defense. She left. Parker met with the store's GM next. You'll be reviewing every rejected application from the last 2 months. Anyone who meets basic qualifications gets a second look. You'll personally contact them. Yes, sir. And I want a new hiring policy posted by Monday. Clear criteria. No vague language.
No gatekeeping.
He left the office and returned to the floor. A young cashier glanced over. You the guy who just fired Darlene? I am. The cashier nodded. She never liked hiring moms. Said they always wanted special treatment. Parker's expression didn't change. Everyone's treated with respect from now on.
No exceptions.
The cashier gave a quiet nod and turned back to her register. Parker stepped outside. The sun was beginning to drop, casting long shadows across the parking lot. He looked up at the storefront. Polished glass, gleaming signs. But it wasn't enough. The problem hadn't been the buildings. It had been the people trusted to lead inside them. Not anymore. Parker arrived at headquarters before sunrise. The parking lot was empty, and the building was still locked. He entered using his key card and walked through the quiet hallways, the echo of his steps bouncing off polished floors. He didn't stop at his office. He went straight to the operations conference room and began pinning photos of each store up on the whiteboard. No logos, no numbers, just pictures of people. Crew lineups, shift leads, lobby staff. He wasn't thinking about locations anymore. He was thinking about culture. By the time the district managers filed in at 8, there were over 60 faces on the board. Sit, he said, without preamble. They exchanged glances, uneasy. You all know by now what's happened this past week. I went undercover. I worked the headset. I bagged fries. I watched people who should have been leading crush the people who keep this company running. He stepped to the board and tapped a photo of a young man wiping down a table. This is Marcus. He's been working grill for over a year with faulty equipment and no hazard adjustments. He never complained. He just kept showing up. He moved to another photo. This is Olivia. She's 17. She's been taking care of her brother while her mother works nights. She got her hours slashed for being 5 minutes late. I watched her beg to stay on the schedule. He looked around the room. I had to fire 3 people this week. Not for stealing. Not for skipping shifts. For abusing power. For hiding behind policy. For making this company worse. No one responded. This isn't a performance speech. This is a warning. If you're not in these stores every week, talking to crew, watching the floor, fixing what's broken, then you're part of the problem. We don't lead from spreadsheets. We lead from the front. A hand slowly raised. It was Terrence, district lead for the southern region. What do you want from us, Parker? We've got 10 locations each. We're stretched thin. I know. That's why we're restructuring. Effective immediately, each of you will oversee no more than 5 stores. We're hiring 5 new field leads to split the load. And every store gets a rotating audit unannounced, hands-on every 30 days. Another manager leaned forward. What kind of audit? Everything. Scheduling, training logs, exit interviews, crew feedback. If a store has more than 2 walkouts in a month, we investigate. Not with forms. With FaceTime. He turned to the HR director sitting quietly by the window. We're also adding a bilingual hotline and appointing 2 employee liaisons, 1 male, 1 female, who report directly to me. They'll rotate through stores, off the clock, and collect anonymous concerns. You will not interfere with them. The HR director nodded slowly. No more stories about people afraid to speak up. That ends now. He dismissed the meeting. By that afternoon, Parker was back at Store 7. The lunch rush was building, and the line wrapped around the drive-thru. Inside, the energy had shifted, subtle but real. Jordan moved with intent, giving short, clear directions. The headset rotated between 2 people instead of being dumped on one. No one was shouting. No one looked cornered. Parker stepped behind the counter. Olivia was on register, focused but relaxed. She glanced up when she saw him and gave a small nod. It wasn't gratitude. It was acknowledgement. She was holding her own now. He waited until the line dipped, then joined Jordan near the fryer. Look steadier, Parker said. Jordan nodded. Still short 2 people, but it's manageable. Marcus helped train the new girl this morning. She's sharp. Wants to move to prep next week. You trust her with that?
I do.
Then do it. A beeping cut through the air timer on the fryer. Jordan stepped away to handle it. Parker made his way to the back, where Marcus was scrubbing down the grill area. You get that fan fixed?
Parker asked.
Marcus looked up. Came in yesterday morning. Different vendor. Works like it should. Good. You get your hazard pay sorted.
Yeah.
HR followed up. Parker nodded. You training anyone new?
2.
1 started yesterday. 1's shadowing me tomorrow. What do you need? Marcus thought for a second. More prep bins. The ones we have are fine for small batches, but with short staff, we lose time refilling. I'll get you 6 more. Anything else? Marcus shook his head. We're all right. Just need time. You'll get it. Parker stepped back into the lobby. A middle-aged woman in a faded uniform was wiping down tables. She moved slowly, favoring one leg. He hadn't seen her before. He approached. You knew. Started 2 days ago, she said, not looking up. Evenings and Saturdays. You liking it so far? She gave a tired shrug. It's work. He waited. She glanced at him. It's better than my last job. They wouldn't even let us sit during 8-hour shifts. You're allowed to sit here when you need to. If anyone tells you otherwise, you tell Jordan. She looked at him for a beat. You the one who got rid of Carla? I am. Her mouth twitched slightly. Then yeah, this'll work. Back at headquarters the next day, Parker rolled out a new training module mandatory for all leads. It wasn't about food safety or upselling. It was about people.
Managing humans.
Reading body language.
De-escalating conflict.
Holding standards without intimidation. He brought in an outside consultant who'd worked in trauma-informed workplaces. The module wasn't optional. Anyone who refused to complete it lost their leadership role. 2 shift leads quit. 4 more pushed back. He replaced them within the week. He didn't stop there. He added a mentorship program pairing veteran crew with new hires across stores. The mentors got a small pay bump, but more importantly, they got a voice in how new people were on board. That gave ownership. That built culture. Within 30 days, walkout rates dropped across the board. Not to zero, but enough to notice. Stores started reporting fewer missed shifts. The hotline picked up steam some noise, but some real issues too. 2 more assistant managers were let go. One for manipulating schedules to favor friends. Another for verbally mocking a crew member's speech impediment. Parker didn't flinch. He acted fast. Every time. At Store 7, Olivia was promoted to floor trainer.
She didn't ask for it.
Jordan offered it after seeing her walk a new hire through the register system without losing patience once, even during a rush. Marcus asked to move to mornings so he could take a night class in HVAC repair. Parker approved it on the spot and added a tuition reimbursement clause to the benefits package for all crew over 6 months' tenure. At Store 12, they rehired 3 of the applicants Darlene had turned away. One of them, a mother of 2 with 15 years of kitchen experience, was promoted to prep lead within 3 weeks. She built an entirely new system for bulk prep that cut waste by nearly a third. Parker visited that store personally and handed her a bonus check. The company wasn't fixed. Not entirely. Not yet. But it was changing because the rot had been exposed and the excuses were gone. One evening, just after closing, Parker returned to Store 7. The lights were dimmed, and Olivia was wiping down the soda station. She looked up, surprised. "Didn't expect to see you," she said. "Didn't expect to come. Just passing through." She nodded, then hesitated. "I didn't think any of this would happen," she said quietly. "I thought people like me just got replaced." "You almost were," Parker said. "But you held your ground. That matters." She looked at him, then back down at her rag. "Feels different now," she said. "Not easier, but more fair. That's the goal." She didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. Parker stepped outside. The air was cool, the lot quiet. The flickering sign had finally been replaced. It glowed steady now, casting clean light across the pavement. He didn't get in his truck right away. He stood there for a long moment, watching the building. Not the walls. Not the drive-thru. The people inside. They were the company now. And he'd make damn sure they stayed at the center of it.